I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That will take us to recognitions. We'll start with speech and debate state qualifiers tonight.
Order. He was attending speech and debate. He attended the National Individual Events Tournament, and he attended the National Speech and Debate Association Tournament taking place this June in Des Moines, Iowa. He competed in the prose and impromptu part of the competition, along with sophomore Chanel Reynolds, junior Dylan Rosinski, freshman Harper Todd, and we also had a couple other students who attended speech and debate tournaments through the season as well. We had Brooklyn Hedrick and Chanel Reynolds place 7th in dramatic interpretation at the Misha State Speech and Debate Championship, and junior Dylan Rosinski earned 6th place in humorous interpretation. So congratulations on a great season, and thank you, Sam, for joining us tonight. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Mrs. Chrisman with Special Olympics.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Amanda Chrisman, one of the coaches of Special Olympics, and I also have Mama LaDonna, another one of our coaches, and Allison Lindmark's making her way up here, and all of our amazing athletes. We have several of them that were able to make it tonight, and they represented Green Valley. We had 3 different opportunities to participate in state competition. We had bowling, we had basketball, and then we had track and field this year. And so the kiddos that are here, we'd like to recognize for the events that they got to go to state and compete. First is Mr. Braden Armstrong. He went to state for bowling and basketball. Next is Mr. Jonah Ayers, and he went to state for bowling and track and field. And next is Mr. Cohen James, who went to, my goodness, all 3, didn't you? Great job, Cohen. Next is Kaleho Van Dyne, and he also went to state in all 3 events. Okay, I did it again, Max. Where's yours? Whew. Okay, poor Max. He always thinks I forget him. All right, and then we have Mr. Max Williamson, who went for track and field to state, and then next year he's going to do all the events, right? Yeah. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Mr. Kilpatrick with our Seal of Biliteracy recipients.
Hello, I'm Mr. Kilpatrick, Spanish teacher at the high school. Back in April, my Spanish 4 students took the Stamp 4S Sealed by Literacy test. This is a test that measures all 4 of the core language skills in a foreign language. That's listening, reading, speaking, and writing. How these students get this, the Sealed by Literacy, they must have an ACT score of 18 or higher in their reading, or a proficient or higher on their ELA 2 EOC. Then they must score a composite score of 5 or higher on the Sealed by Literacy test. In this case, it was in Spanish. This states that a student is proficient in 2 languages. Some of the benefits of this is a lot of schools, colleges locally, such as UCM, by having the Sealed by Literacy and a composite of 5 or higher, a student can receive up to 12 hours of Spanish credit, which would cover their intro level and intermediate level courses for that, and be well on the way to a minor. There are currently 8 universities that offer this in the state of Missouri. It also benefits the non-college bound students who potentially could get a raise in their salary by being proficient in more than 1 language as well. We initially had 12 who passed this, and that was the last time I was here, which was a very high number area-wide for high schools. We had a few that wanted to reassess one of the areas, and we had 2 that passed, bringing our total number to 14. Here with me today is one of those recipients. It's Viviana Bozic. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to the end of our recognitions. If that's what you came to view tonight and you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you are welcome to exit now, and we will take a minute. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
What's his last name? Benshu. Okay. 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 All right. That will take us to patron comments. Any school district patron may present information to the board at this time. Presentations will be limited to no more than 5 minutes. The board will not take action on any issue not included on the published agenda. However, all comments will be taken into consideration by the Board of Education. Patrons are requested not to discuss individual faculty, staff, or students. Patrons are reminded that this is a public forum and comments relative to individuals could result in litigation. However, any patron may request to meet with the board in executive session. No response will be given by the board at this time. We have 2 patrons on the list. The first one is Chad Benshu.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Chad Benshoff. Some of you may also know me as Coach Benshoff. I've proudly been a member of the Green Valley community since 2006, and I've had the privilege of serving our school district as a wrestling coach at both the middle school and high school levels for over a decade. During my time here, I've witnessed the district grow and thrive in numerous ways. Both of my children are proud graduates of Green Valley High School. Today, they are successful college graduates and self-sufficient adults, what I like to call productive members of the community. This evening, I come before you not only as a long-standing community member, but also in my professional capacity as a senior account executive with Toshiba Business Solutions. I'm here respectfully to express my concerns regarding the recent approval process related to RFQ ID GVSD MFP 25, which was issued by the district on April 14th, 2025. In my role at Toshiba, I have worked to build a meaningful partnership with the Green Valley School District. one grounded in the same spirit of service and commitment that I brought to the wrestling program. Over the past year, I've collaborated closely with Dr. Gooch and his staff to better understand how the district leverages its printing and copier technology. I've personally visited each school building, engaging directly with staff to learn about the day-to-day challenges they face and how technology impacts their effectiveness in the classroom. Throughout this process, I've encountered several roadblocks and obstacles that I believe have placed Toshiba and the potentially other vendors at a disadvantage in this RFQ process. While I may be the only vendor representative speaking here tonight, I believe that's not due to a lack of concern from others. Rather, it's because they may not have the personal stake in this community that I do. I have a VPGM at Toshiba that resides in this community. His child goes to school here. Another coworker also goes to school here and are members of this community. They also don't have someone like me, someone who cares so deeply about this school district and its long-term success. As such, I respectfully challenge the board to take a closer look at the process used for this particular bid. We are discussing a 5-year contract valued at nearly $300,000, which was released without detailed criteria or specifications, elements that are standard in most competitive evaluations. By contrast, the district superintendent's search proposal, issued just days ago to replace Dr. Welly, included a clear scope of services, defined requirements, and an evaluation criteria that was not included in the copier proposal. I urge the board to consider whether this bid process meets the standards, fairness, transparency, and due diligence that our community expects. I respectfully request that this matter be further evaluated and discussed in a closed executive session to allow for a more in-depth constructive dialogue. Thank you for your time, your service, and your continued commitment to the Green Valley School District.
Thank you. The next community member is Amaya Graybill.
Oops, my bangle's gonna be annoying. Okay. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Amaya Graybill, and I just graduated from Green Valley High School. As I leave Green Valley after having been a lifelong resident and also attending K through 12 school here, I felt in my heart I needed to do any and all in my power to ensure that future generations after me, both living in Green Valley as well as attending Green Valley schools, also have positive experiences. I'm extremely proud to have been a Green Valley student and will carry that sense of pride with me as I enter the next chapter of my life. I truly hope Green Valley continues to foster a culture that represents all students. That being said, as we live through these uncertain times, I fear for future students and humans everywhere. We are living in a time where our education is being attacked. Our freedom of expression is being silenced. Our resources are being wiped, with thousands of government websites being taken down, and a load of words that are set to be flagged are limited. In many ways, our history is being rewritten. These aren't fear tactics, and these aren't lies being pushed by the media. These are real issues. As we look back at history, we're able to see the parallels between the past and between now, when our information was dictated and the outcomes were terrifying. I have no doubt that you as school board members understand the importance of public education, and I'm also sure that you are well aware that in many ways our freedoms are being minimized. I stand here tonight not to repeat what you already know, but to hopefully remind you why you sit in those seats. It's not to fulfill a political agenda. It's not for power or for money or for self-gain. It's for the students, the teachers, the administrators, and the other faculty, staff, and residents of Green Valley that elected you to work for them. It is my sincerest hope that in the coming years you use your platform here to do good, to increase opportunities for all students, to make students at Green Valley, no matter their race, their ethnicity, who they love, how they identify, or how they were raised feel welcome and feel like they belong in this space. Now more than ever, marginalized groups are not being protected. With cuts to DEI programs and an agenda that poses to stop the teaching of subjects such as gender ideology, white privilege, or unconscious bias, trans students, Black students, Hispanic students, along with many others, are living in a political climate that targets them. School should not be a place that is feared for anyone. I was able to express my authentic self at Grain Valley, and that should be the same for every single student. Lessons that we learn in our psych classes, our literature classes, history classes, and so many more teach us the racial injustice that still exists in America. They teach us about the Stonewall uprising and the continued fight for LGBTQ rights and liberties. Classes where we learn about the Holocaust and the Japanese internment camps that happened on American soil. Lessons where we learn that our implicit bias against groups of people and how that the very self-awareness of those biases can stop and rework our schemas and our beliefs from a place of hate and ignorance to a place of understanding and love. It's lessons like these, lessons where we talk about history and we talk about people, not to feel guilty or ashamed, but to learn how we can be better for the future, for our neighbors, for our friends and our families, for the people we meet through every phases of our life. These lessons aren't a part of a woke agenda. They're part of our history and the legacy we continue to create. I'm not here to lecture you or repeat things I'm sure you already know, but I hope that coming from a former Grain Valley student that this means something to you. Because I see the work that you all put in and that our teachers and administrators put in and other educators to give students a space that they feel cared for and they feel represented. In this position, each and every one of you truly has the chance to make a difference in the lives of so many children and kids. During my time in Grain Valley schools, I had so many educators who were incredibly impactful in the trajectory of my life. I recognize that in the years to come, you may face challenges and setbacks, but it's my deepest hope that you stand your ground and continue to fight for all students and educators any chance you may get. Thank you again.
All right, thank you. All right, that was the only signups. Doesn't look like there's anybody else here, so we will be moving on to reports. We'll start with the facility needs prioritized.
Yes, so we have been working to identify the needs of the district moving forward. For the past dozen or so years, any of our bond campaigns have focused on renovations and additions at the high school, and that long-range plan continues. However, as we gear up for a potential bond issue as soon as April of '26, we're looking to maybe address some of the other priority needs within the district. So you also have in your reports Facilities Planning Committee meeting minutes from June 10th. And we don't necessarily need to go over that, but I'm kind of covering the short of it, of ideas that have been flushed out with that committee. So kind of at the top of the list is expanding elementary capacity across the district, and also specialized program space, specifically for our higher needs special education programs in our elementary schools. So one of the ways that we could do that, as was the recommendation or the outcome of our latest demography study, is that this is probably not the time for us to build a fifth elementary school, but rather take other steps to invest in current sites and resources to expand elementary capacity. One example I will give will be Matthews Elementary School, which it is essentially a 3-section per grade level building. So there's 3 classes at each grade level, and which puts that building at capacity at those 3 sections. The other 3 elementary schools are all at least 4 sections at each grade level. So in addition to Matthews Elementary School, it could do a couple of things. It could expand the overall elementary capacity across our district. It could bring Matthews itself up to par with the other buildings in terms of the being a 4-section building. And typically, I'm going to use Prairie Branch as another example. Prairie Branch is a 4-section building, but it also has the capacity so that if a larger than normal grade level comes through, once in a while we need 5 sections of a grade level. I think next fall we'll have 5 sections at 2 of the grade levels at Prairie Branch. They have the room for that. So they're able to accommodate that occasional bubble class or 2 that comes through there, but they're still providing program as a 4-section building, and there's a lot of efficiencies operating in an elementary school as a 4-section building. So we'd like to bring Matthews up to speed on that. Second priority is just other improvements at Matthews. For example, we would, what we know we need right now is we'd like to get better traffic flow in and out of the building. When I watch the buses come and go out of Matthews, every year I say there's not room for even one more bus getting off the street and getting in there. And occasionally a bus will find itself in a situation either because of a delivery driver or because there's a car parked in the wrong spot where every bus that goes through there, it seems, is doing a 3-point turn to get around. And if you need room for a 3-point turn, that's one less bus that's in your bus loop that morning. So traffic flow for parents, and we know that all of our schools are busy places at arrival and dismissal time for car riders, but Matthews is particularly tight, and it's very difficult for, on a good day, most vehicles can make the loop at the north end of the property on the gravel up there, but on occasion there's vehicles that are making 3-point turns just to get back out of the property, pick up their child and leave the property. So there's other improvements that we could make at Matthews. And if you have been in all of our elementary schools, it's pretty obvious to see that 3 of them are very similar, and then the 4th one is very different. And Matthews is very different. And we don't necessarily have the desire to make it look like the others, but we want people to have the same reaction to the physical presence of the building when they're making their way towards the school and within the school. And we think we could really update Matthews, and it would continue to be a cornerstone and a gem for our school district. Third priority is to provide what we call right now the next level vestibules, next level secure vestibules. All of our school vestibules are secure, but in most cases, once you are screened as a visitor, you are granted access to the school. And we have a couple of vestibules within the district where there is actually, once you're screened, you're actually then prevented, yet you're in the building, but you're prevented from having full access to the school. That's the level of security vestibule we want to have at all of our buildings, so that is another priority on the short list at this time. We've talked previously, and this board has set a very specific goal of expanding extracurricular opportunities for students with an emphasis on middle school. And we very much, we're proud of the additions that we've added in the last couple of years and that we plan to add for the year ahead. But we have some facility needs that are keeping us from hitting some of our other priorities. So if we were to have a middle school level track area and a middle school level turf field, it wouldn't have to be exclusive use of middle schools, but it would allow us to primarily expand middle school programming, and it would also allow us more flexibility to have a second turf field as a school district that occasionally high school activities would certainly benefit from that as well. Just as when we built the second gymnasium at the high school, it benefited middle school and elementary programming as well because it added another facility to our overall repertoire. So those are the big ones. Anytime we do a bond issue, there's also other projects. So there are other things that we would consider. Some of them are listed there in the facilities planning committee minutes. But some of those, if they make the final cut, they might be contingencies. So we might be able to campaign on the 4 priorities I just listed, and then maybe there's a couple other items that we're not sure are going to make the cut from a budget standpoint for our bonding capacity, but we could campaign on them being contingent upon money being available. So that's really just an update on where we're at. It's very early in our programming. By our goal when we do an April ballot is to have a solid proposal to the board by December. So here we are in June. We're a little ahead of the game. We also have Nicole Young with us tonight from Hollis & Miller Architects, and she's my in-person phone-a-friend. If the board has any questions on any of these priorities that we've been working on behind the scenes.
All right, thank you. Do any of the members have any questions for Dr. Welly or Nicole about the priorities for tonight? No? All right, no? Okay. Very good. We don't have any questions as of right now. So I think
It's early.
it is early. We really appreciate you coming and spending an hour or so with us tonight. All right, Nicole, thank you. All right, that will take us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Welling?
Thank you. Just a few highlights for you tonight. The year-to-date revenues, this was as of the end of May, so this is we're always 1 month behind in our reporting. We're at 94% on our revenues at the end of May. We're at 83% on our expenses at the end of May. You know, there's actually quite a bit that gets paid out in June for the summer. So there's all summer payroll that we get closed out by the end of the July 1, the end of our budget year. And so that's why you see expenditures trailing at 83% as of May. There were no changes in our health premium overages. And as in our presentation for next year's budget that we gave at the June workshop, we were able to illustrate how, although we thought we had a peak in spending or a bubble in spending a year ago, that actually we've been pretty even on our health premium payments now for the second year in a row. And so next year's budget kind of reflects similar payments. And a good share of that, and I'm getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but a good share of that is that we're increasing the premium paid on each employee, so we don't have to raise our budgeted overage payments by as much. But anyway, that's a long way of saying no changes to health premium overages. And then our year-end student attendance, you can see that we upped our performance. A lot of work by a lot of people throughout the organization move us from 87.2% overall attendance in 2024 to 89% in 2025. Our goal is to always be at least 90%. It's tough to fall just shy of that, but we're also pleased that we are moving the needle on that. Bless you. Other highlights, this is kind of this is a time of year where we do a lot of planning for the upcoming school year, and we're already getting excited for back to school, or at least I am. The house is empty here tonight, so maybe not. The rest of the world's enjoying their summer. We're changing some things about our greeting our new teachers, and so highlighted down below on the calendar is a new event for you, and it's July 29th. For any board members who are available, we'd like to invite you to join us at 8 o'clock. All of our new folks are going to come dressed for their back-to-school photo that day. We're going to introduce them to the administrators and any board members who can join us, and then there'll be an opportunity for a meet and greet. If this works out for board members' schedules and we can have a good representation, then we'd like to reflect on that and see if there is a need to bring them back for an evening to meet the board later in the fall. If we can cover it all for one, we will. But if it doesn't work out, then we'll find a plan B. So I wanted to plant that seed with all of you tonight and have you get that on your calendar, see if you're available. And certainly we would answer any questions you have on anything in the superintendent's report.
All right, very good, thank you. Are there any questions on the superintendent's report from this month? No? I'll take up for Mr. Scully since he's not here. I noticed the deficit went up quite a bit, even though we had $3,000 to $4,000 of donations for the, what's that?
School lunch day.
For the school lunch debt, yeah. So, any new thoughts on how to help that? I'm sure Aaron's watching somewhere.
And I'm hoping he's gonna send you a message that says, "Hey, thanks for asking my question." I mean, this was a recent discussion at a Kansas City business officials meeting that Mr. Hooper was a part of as well, and there are things that people do. We could discuss those in the future if that's something that we would want to consider. There are groups that at a certain threshold, then they start contacting collection groups, things like that. There's just kind of there's really a plethora of things that different school districts do because of this. And so I'd be more than happy to kind of bring a list to you to kind of say, hey, here's what we're hearing as a kind of the metro-wide group. Here's all the various things that they do. Are these, and we could decide if this is something that we would like to consider versus, just kind of removing homecoming, prom, and parking passes. That did really good. Really, actually, was the best we had was, of course, the parking. I feel like if you'd like, I would be more than happy to compile the list of everything that was talked about there, and we can ultimately decide if we want to continue with what we do or if we want to make any changes to it. So,
I think having a list of options that the surrounding community uses would be good for us to mull over and look at.
absolutely.
But in that discussion, were there any discussions or talks about results? What if it actually worked or not, or just this is what we try?
There are some that had better results than others. What I will say is we are definitely not alone. As a matter of fact, there are some that have exorbitant dollar figures attached to this. I would say that some of them that would be more beneficial or they help reduce it are pretty harsh, pretty severe, where you...
Go ahead, Mr. Hooper.
Did you want to add to...
One of the ones that they said was, and I know this because Dr. Gooch and I have talked about it after the meeting a little bit. They said that there was a big push. The question actually that brought it up was getting people to fill out the free and reduced, and then it transformed into the food service lunch debt. And one of the local districts basically said, if you fill it out and you qualify, we'll pay your debt off, because in the long run, that was going to save them money by paying off that debt. So that's at least one less harsh thing, just trying to get people, to fill it out. And then if you qualify, then your debt will be gone, but it will benefit us in the long run by not having that continue to get worse, because now they're on the free and reduced, which, they should have been on, in the first place. So that was one approach that they said they actually did that would work pretty well for them, because everybody else said was just not good.
Yeah,
It's basically a struggle.
it is now. The other ones are just other organizations or companies that make phone calls and start to figure out how to send you to a collection department.
Right.
And I would love to have more discussion and that type of stuff with you. So he and I will get together. We'll compile all the discussion points that were talked about, and if I feel like we need to reach back out to any district and ask if I feel like we don't have enough together in our discussion to compile like who I feel like was the most successful, which the most successful being harsh and the most successful not being as firm, I'll bring all that forward to you. So,
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I most definitely am not an advocate of sending families to collections. That doesn't make us seem very inclusive or welcoming. as
Understood.
was mentioned in our opening comments, so. But, yeah, if you guys can put a list
You
together,
betcha.
that'd be great.
Yep.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but we are not a charity.
Absolutely.
You know, we're a school district,
absolutely.
and $100,000 in debt is a lot. It's going to compound. So I think that we need to find some sort of solution, and good luck. I have no idea what that will be.
Thank
Well,
you for
and-
that.
I would like to know if, and we've discussed this more than once, but does the 80-20 rule apply here? Is it really just 20% of that debt, or, 80% of that debt is coming from 20% of the people, or that's probably not the correct use of the
Well, I
80-20
mean,
rule,
y-
but
I
you know
know-
what
I-
I'm getting at.
Yeah, I would say yes, because whenever I get the lists from the food service department, when you see one building in particular, the list is only one page. When you're dealing with 500 or north of students, and you're talking about 30, and that one building has, $12,000 debt, but it's only 20 names. Yeah, that's what that is. So it is really going to answer your question. Yes, it is.
And at this point, we are not withholding diplomas. I can't remember where we landed
So
on that.
I don't believe that we can actually withhold the actual transcript that would need to then be forwarded on to a college or anything like
Yeah,
that. We
okay.
cannot do that.
Okay. All sorts of good news.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Holding a diploma is different than holding the transcript, though.
Right. I mean, we could not give them the piece of paper, but
If it were turned into collections, that would not go against the student, correct? Like, not, probably
I
not
can't-
their
I- it
fault,
would- it
right?
would- The collections would be forwarded to the parent for
Okay,
the
I-
obligation.
Okay.
And I have a question on that too. Like, is this all done at central office level, or is this, like, I know in some districts, it is just part of the building budget that they assume their lunch debt,
Yeah.
which is not, I mean, I know that that would be very hard for our buildings to take on.
Yeah.
But
What do you mean?
Yeah,
that-
I
what do
mean,
you mean
I-
they assume the lunch debt?
it's part of their building budget.
Yeah. So
It is, so
So
like,
it's zeroed out at the end of the budget year?
correct, and it comes from the building's
And it
budget.
comes from the
That-
building's
that
budget.
is that is what some other school districts do. Pardon the
It's an
weirdness
option.
there, but
I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you
So you
either,
put the building
is responsible for.
administration.
Yes,
for
so that's
I mean,
where you get
ultimately,
the
it's the
extra help.
district that is.
Ultimately, but
Yep.
there's at least another layer of help trying to get that collected.
Yeah.
Correct,
We
because
can
at
make,
this point,
we can make this all go away. If, we could do that annually, and we just don't ever have recurring student debt. It wouldn't be my recommendation, but we can do that. We can budget the debt annually. And it just goes away. Yeah, just get it off the books. Now, it's gonna grow,
It doesn't change the behavior.
doesn't change the
Yeah.
Correct.
behavior.
That's correct.
And if I got by without paying lunch on my 2 kids this year, then next year when I have a third one, I'm gonna get by without paying their lunches as well, even though I don't qualify for assistance. So
Dr.
it
Cook-
is an option.
Dr. Gooch, I don't want to go down a huge rabbit hole here, but just out of curiosity, I don't recall this being an issue 10 years ago.
well, it
Has
wasn't
this
really a
always-
big issue pre-COVID.
Okay.
And once, I think what ended up really ultimately happening is when the federal government provided free meals for every single student, a lot of families at that point had 2 years where they didn't have to spend any money on it. And so now that we've come back off of that and those dollars aren't there, there doesn't seem to be as much of a drive or an emphasis or really a reason for families to even attempt to try to qualify for free and reduced. If you don't have a student that needs a reduction in AP fees or anything like that, and I don't qualify for free and reduced, but things are tight, I struggle a little bit, then why do I need to really worry about filling it out? I'm not going to qualify. I used to get it for free. And I think that's really why you have seen an explosion or a balloon in this type of dollar is because, I think coming off COVID, I think that really kind of started this trajectory forward. I will say we did have a negative balance prior to COVID. This has always been something that has happened. It just wasn't quite, it wasn't a 6-figure number.
It wasn't too many years ago that we took, like, you got a cheese sandwich if you had.
Yeah,
more
and
than
that's
so much
something
debt.
else too.
I mean, that was how we controlled the debt.
Or
back in the
remove
day.
food off of trays.
Yeah, and we've moved away from all that.
Yeah. So I will gladly bring you a list of stuff, and I would welcome the discussion, so, thank you.
I did want you guys to know, just so you know, we do, if somebody writes a check to us and it is bad, the Bank of Grand Valley's practice is they automatically send it to collections. So there are certain things that if people write bad checks, they're going to collections right now. And almost, I mean, when that happens, I can just tell you, it does not happen very often, but the payments usually are remade just like that. So just so you know, it's not unheard of. We do that. Again, that's just something that the Bank of Grand Valley does. So just so you know, we do have some things that go to collections.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions on the superintendent's report in general? All right. Very good. And you all have the facility planning committee maintenance. If there were any questions on any of that? No? Okay. That will move us to unfinished business. I would look for a motion to approve the 2025-2026 budget as presented.
Second.
All right. Dr. Welly, you want to take us through the budget, or Mr. Hooper?
Yes, I'll get us started. This is the same numbers that you saw in our presentation at the workshop earlier this month. It represents a state adequacy target increase of, or at the level of $7,145, up from $6,760 for the last year. It also represents $1,100 to the base of the teacher salary schedule and comparable percentage increases to all the other pay schedules. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Hooper. And did you have anything additional? Or this one, we'll have more to talk about on the transfers, but we just really open it up for questions.
Okay. Any questions on the budget? Nothing really changed, okay? No? All right, very good. All in favor of approving the budget for 2025-2026 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes, thank you. And the next item on the agenda, on the amended agenda, is I would look for a motion to approve the salary schedules for the 2025-2026 school year. All right, Dr. Welly.
Again, the main teacher salary schedule shows an increase of $1,100 to the base. So teachers will get $1,100 plus whatever step they would get. Those steps tend to be closer to $500 on early career, around $1,000 mid-career, and they can extend out to $1,500 in that specialist column at the end. So, and then comparable, so the $1,100, whatever that average percentage is for teachers, then that percentage is applied to non-certified pay schedules. So those folks all get their step, plus they get the comparable raise, and which is averages is 2.6%. And then same for administrators, they get their step plus 2.6% added to the basis of all those salary schedules. No changes since you saw this presented at the workshop.
Very good. Any questions on the salary schedule? All right. All in favor of approving the salary schedule for the 2025-2026 school year, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, that will take us to new business. The first item of new business is the superintendent search. So we have started this process. We've submitted or sent out our RFP and posted on our website to engage in a set of search firms that we will then evaluate. Proposals are due back to the district by July 3rd. We've had quite a bit of interest so far. I think I've received notification back from at least 3 firms that are gonna submit for certain. And then we will just continue the evaluation process once we receive the proposals back. Any questions on the process or where we're at with that?
Yes. Just want to make sure I understand the process.
Absolutely.
So we have sent out RFI, or whatever we're
RFP.
calling it.
Yep.
It was an RFP?
Yep,
Okay.
a request for proposal.
Just for a determination of who we're going to select to do
To help
the
us
search.
through
And
the
we're going to pick
search.
just one?
We will pick one
Just one.
firm.
Okay.
And if you haven't seen the RFP, let's see. I'm gonna try and see if I can find it here.
It is on, yep. It's on the website, right?
It is on our
Yeah.
website. Yes, so the way we've put it out, Ms. Schwartz was able to help me through this. She was able to put it all together for us. It lists out what the scope of services that the firm will be requested to present on, what they're to present their information to us in such a way that we know how they're going to perform the search, what they're going to, if they're going to engage the community, what kind of surveys, if any, things like that. And then obviously what their fee is going to be, and then post-hire, what services they would actually help us perform with the placement and getting the new superintendent up to speed with the district and things like that. So the way our proposals, or the way our submission looks is that, proposals are due back to us on July 3rd. We'll then have an evaluation process, and we will be reviewing proposals between the board between July 7th and July 25th, with interviews planned after that for however we narrow down those firms, and then have a firm selected hopefully by middle of August.
So that's all full board doing that evaluation?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Mr. Porter, is there a target date for selection that would give the incoming superintendent adequate time?
So the optimum time to get a request out or post the job would be in late September, early October, is what we're looking for, is to have everything completed, have everything drawn up for a posting for that time. And these firms, that the majority of them that are going to be submitting, if not all of them, are well-known in the circle, in the field, and they'll be able to be pushing candidates towards that submission.
Just for the record, this is a national search that we're doing.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is a national search. Okay. Any other questions on that? All right. That will take us to the budget transfer for 2024-2025. Is this the last budget transfer, or will there be one more? Last one. Okay.
Yes.
I would look for a motion to approve the 2024-2025 budget transfer as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right. You wanna?
Yes,
Walk us through
this,
that.
this one I'm going to serve up for Mr. Hooper. There are two main transfers, and I'll let him kind of explain, walk you through that process.
Sure. So just as a reminder, the district occurs capital project expenses throughout the year, which come out of Fund 40, which is the capital projects fund. And the only constant revenue stream that we have in Fund 40 is the interest that we receive on the cash balances. So that's basically all the positives in Fund 4 outside of a bond. And for this reason, the state allows us two different transfers to occur between Fund 10 and Fund 40 to cover the expenses. So there's a 7% transfer, which is based off of 7% of our state adequacy revenue. And then there is a transportation portion as well. So this year, what we are proposing is the full transportation transfer of $521,390. And of the 7% transfer, we're proposing $1,609,152.21. That is actually based off of a full transfer, that the full 7% that we could have transferred was $1,974,891, but we reduced it by $365,829. I know, a lot of fun numbers. We reduced it by that, and what that amount is there were some bond expenses that we paid out of Fund 10, and since all of the bond revenue comes in on Fund 4, then we basically, to get that balance to drop down, so we're kind of matching our expenses to where the revenues came in, we basically just said, well, we're not going to cover the $300 and some thousand that are bond related, because that will reduce the Fund 4 balance to $365,000, which is where the revenue came in. So that's where, that's how we determine that the amount that we're proposing to transfer. By doing those two transfers, it leaves us with an estimated reserve balance of 22.68%, and that's compared to 23.99% back in 23 and 24.
Okay. Very good. Any questions on all the numbers you just heard? No? Okay. Very good. All in favor of approving the 2024-2025 budget transfer as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now that takes us to the budget amendment for 2024-2025. I'd look for a motion to approve the amendment as presented. All right.
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Hooper to kind of walk us through the summary of changes for both our revenues and our expenditures.
I'll just kind of hit the high notes unless you guys have questions about anything. One of the biggest ones that we see on there, and we've discussed this over the last couple of times that I've been in the meetings, is that we're reducing the property taxes and the real estate taxes by $550,000. And that's pretty much due to some lagging collections, and then also the protested taxes. I don't know, I can't tell you exactly without trying to contact the county to give me more information about how much is truly lagging. I mean, we've kind of discussed a little bit that, I mean, let's be honest, you only have to pay your property taxes every other year now when you get your tags renewed, so, and just pay the penalty. So I don't know if people are doing that or what, but we are lagging behind. And when we budgeted, we only budgeted at a 97% collection rate. So it's even lower, it's even slower than that. So that was, that's really kind of this is the first year that we've really experienced this. And then everything else, is just kind of due to actuals coming in higher than what we budgeted. The ECSE state revenue, and I do apologize, I noticed that I put in there that it's less, the less expenses than the 23-24. ECSE is actually paid nope, it is 24, yep. So 23-24 school year, there were just fewer expenses that qualified, so we budgeted based off of history, and we didn't have that many expenses that were reimbursable, so that was reduced by $230,000, which gives us a ending budget of $64,082,736. Is there anything else up there that anybody wants to talk about or has any questions on?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the property tax, the 550,000. So when that gets paid, if it gets paid, we're assuming it's going to be in the next school year.
It will show up as delinquent taxes next year. So once you hit July 1, everything current gets changed to delinquent until you start collecting for the 26 tax year.
So the school year just ending,
Correct.
we were getting delinquent tax payments from the previous year, 2 years. Really, it could have been from many years ago.
But we every week, you'd be amazed how much we get on 3 and 4 and 5 years old that we're still getting taxes on every single week, But yeah, because we haven't received it, we still have one payment left. They could surprise me and say, hey, here's a whole bunch. I'm not banking on that one. But we'll just see whatever we budgeted for the delinquent taxes, we'll receive more revenues next year because of the fact that they haven't paid them for this year yet.
Okay. So I have another personal property tax or real estate tax question because I just got my assessment not very long ago. And I'm wondering if our budget has taken into account what the county has done with all the residential properties, being reverted them back to what they were and then adding 15% to them versus going off of what they had originally given us.
So we have, I mean, basically what the assessed valuation that they had originally given us was it like 19%, 12%? But since we're Hancocked at 5, they would have to, we only budget the 5% on there, so it would have to drop a whole lot for that to happen, you know, to really affect us, and I don't think it's going to.
The changes that you're seeing by the county's assessments are more likely to have a direct impact on our bonding capacity for next spring, but less of an impact on our budget for the
Okay.
year.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Expenses, there's an increase for 400,000, and that was right after we did the last amendment in February. We made a payment, so this is, you know, the payment happened a while ago, but increased the $400,000 for an additional payment that we made. A reduction of 240,000 for decrease in special ed in-state tuition. Again, fewer students are needing the services. Student activities, just there were more expenses with that. That happens every year. Let's see, sorry. So the bond, we budgeted, when we did the amendment, we basically budgeted out all the bond money, and we did not spend it all out. So we still have bonds, so we just are reducing the bond expenditures down about $500,000. Then there's the newly purchased property by the North Campus. Kitchen remodel, reduction of $475,000. That was really kind of a timing thing. When we budgeted it, we knew how much the whole project was going to cost, and some of that cost occurred in June before the budget, you know, the year switched over. So it was just kind of a passing of years. And then that's basically the bigger ones on there, unless anybody has any other questions on it. But again, brings us down to total expenses of $73,193,015.
And an overall deficit of 9.1 million. However, when you control for the bond spending, that takes us to a net of in the positive of $366,000.
Okay, any questions on any of that? All right,
The next is just by fund, and then the only other thing on there is just the, you know, the projections for the balances.
very good. Any other questions on the budget amendment?
Just real quick, I don't want to drag this out, but the 97% that you usually budget for delinquent property taxes, do you think that I mean, the impression that I get is a lot of people can't afford their property anymore. They can't pay their taxes. Do you think that 97% is adequate, or does that need to be adjusted moving forward?
It may be something that we need to look at. Up until this year, we've never had a problem, you know, with that at all. I mean, we've been closer to 99, and, you know, it's been real high. So this is kind of the first year of an anomaly that that we've actually said, hey, we're not coming close to what we budgeted. So yes, in the future, it may be something we need to address and look at.
Okay, great,
And
thank you.
those are discussions that districts all across the state are having as
Yeah.
well, too. So that's something that's discussed at various conferences and meetings and things that he and I will attend. And if we'll put our ear out there, and if we hear that a lot of school districts are saying, you know, we've always budgeted 97, 98, and like Mr. Hooper said, we've done that and we've done better. But when you start hearing numbers of, yeah, now we're going to lower it from 97 to 95, you know, we know that we're also not alone, and he and I could make those adjustments moving forward as well, so.
Yeah, and I don't know what the other counties are like, but Jackson County specifically, the other districts here, I'd like to know what they're seeing. as well.
Yeah, I just mean, we'll have these discussions across not only the county, but the state, absolutely, you bet.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, very good. All in favor of approving the budget amendment as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. The next item is the revised 2025-2026 school year district calendar. I'd look for a motion to approve the revised 2025-2026 school district calendar as presented.
Second.
All right. Dr. Willie?
Yeah, as we've previously discussed, the main change on this calendar is going to be transitioning September 26th and February 13th from 3-hour early release days to full-day PD days. And we think overall, our parents, the feedback that we've gotten over the years is either have school or don't have school, try to minimize those early out days. So with the passage of Senate Bill 68 this last legislative session, it allows us to continue to qualify for the 169-day student contact day incentive, that we would continue to qualify for that with a board-approved calendar of 169 student contact days, which this amended calendar would do. But if we got in a situation that we had another winter like this last one, then we would still make up some of the days, but as long as we stay at 1,040 hours, we wouldn't necessarily have to make up 1,044 hours. We wouldn't have to necessarily make up all of the days that we did this last year. So that's why we're bringing our student contact days from 171 down to 169.
All right. Any questions on that?
Just one. Still feeling the burn from last year and extending the school year. So I guess I understand what you're saying, but how much wiggle room do we really have?
We still have some built-in days. What we learned from our patrons this year is that the last thing they want us to touch is to come back to school after Memorial Day. And so we only had to do, for the 11 days that we missed, we only had to do 2 days after Memorial Day. And I believe, we didn't talk about this, Dr. Gooch, but I believe if this rule, the Senate Bill 68 fix was in place, we might have been done by Memorial Day this last year.
That would be, if that's it, the way we understand it, that is correct. As long as we still meet we have the approved calendar at 169, but if we still meet the 1,044 hours, we would be sufficient, and we would do that long before Memorial Day.
But we still burn 2 days around. We still had
Yes,
to.
we'd have other days.
We
that
have
would
other
use.
days that we have used.
And this calendar
wanna
will
do.
still designate
Correct.
the week after Memorial Day as designated snow days if we needed them. But the winter would have to be even worse than the one we just had. And I'm not,
Okay. We had a bad winter. Yeah, knock on wood. We had a
remember.
bad winter. I just want to make sure that we're adequately protected because when we start pulling the time around Easter and making kids go then, it was not a pleasant couple of weeks worth of discussions with patrons. So,
no, it was tough times. This will give us more flexibility. But if the weather gets even worse, people will soon forget that Senate Bill 68 ever did us any good.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I reluctantly support this.
You can abstain if you'd like. All right. Any other questions on the calendar? All in favor of approving the revised 2025-2026 school district calendar as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That motion passes. That'll take us to the school board meeting calendar for 2025-2026.
No action. You get a break on this one. You get to have one item for discussion. This is mostly a calendar that is inspired by the previous 12 months school board meeting calendar with meetings and workshops. It follows the same cycle. The reason you're seeing April highlighted in green is the two dates, the April 16th and April 23rd that are highlighted in green. That would reflect keeping April the same as how we did it this year. And the only thing that gets a little nuanced about that is that's the one time the board is meeting 2 weeks in a row. As an alternate, you could, if you wanted to spread it out, because you only meet once in March, you could meet and have a workshop on April 2nd. That is before the April election. So, so you wouldn't be able to have, you'd move so 2 weeks later is when you would have your reorganizational meeting. So basically you either meet on April 2nd and April 23rd, or you meet on April 16th and April 23rd. I guess you could meet on the 2nd and the 16th. It's just that your reorg meeting would be a business meeting instead of a workshop. So that part doesn't really matter too much. But that's the number one change that we could make if you wanted. The other thing that I did was I listed for the board at the bottom when you called special meetings and the general reason why. So in February, we did call a special meeting. In April, we had one. In May, we had one. And in June, we had one. Now, the May and the June, those are, we haven't done stuff like that in many, many years, if at all. So really, we did call last year. We did have a third meeting in February, and we did have a third meeting in April. So there's really no way to remedy that. We're not going to pre-schedule probably 3 meetings in the same month. That's just the way that the timing things worked out.
So I think just from my input would be to move it to the 2nd and the 23rd versus the 2nd or the 16th and 23rd, or the 2nd and 16th. But the 2nd and 23rd, just because of the time period that Jackson County needs to certify the election typically. And I think that would probably make the most sense.
You like the 2nd and
23rd.
the 23rd.
You want 19 days between election and reorg?
Well, it's not necessarily that I want 19 days. It's just,
You had mentioned the 16th. I didn't know.
Well,
I didn't hear your.
yeah. I mean, there's several options of ways that we could do it, and that's how it was in my head. That's probably not how it came out.
Oh, yeah.
So the 2nd and 16th would be functional. It'd be doable, but it's really close to the election.
Do you have 15 days after the
It's
election?
10.
Oh, it's 10 days.
Yeah.
So maybe we'd have to meet on Tuesday, April 21st to certify. Exactly 2 weeks after election.
Yeah, how long we have for the school requirement for us to do it versus the county,
Uh-huh.
they don't align very well.
No. Which
The
is,
yeah,
which
the
is-
county has 10 days to certify it, and I think we only have a certain number of days.
maybe, it might be the same number, and so we're waiting on them, and
Yeah.
we have to act. So, so that's why April's a little tricky, and maybe that's why we end up with the 16th and the 23rd. Is we have the 16th. It's kind of a safe way.
I mean, I think you could pencil it in as, I guess, the 16th and 23rd, or the 2nd and 16th. Does anybody have a preference to either one of those? I think it's 6 one, half dozen the other. I mean, yeah, I think it's.
Well, if there's not an overwhelming sense that we should change it, then maybe we leave it the way we did it this year, and we bring it back as an action item next time. And if what we bring back as an action item is not, like after further reflection, if that's not what the board wants, then we can amend it that night and change it. But unless people have a
Yeah.
strong feeling
I mean,
to
I
change
think
it, we
that's
just
probably
keep it the
right.
same.
We'd probably leave it the same, 16th and 23rd. Just keep it that way.
Okay. And we'll bring that back in July.
The only comment I would make, and it's not specific to the 16th or the 23rd, is the comment I make every year. there's a lot of meetings here, and I really want to know that they're all necessary. I don't want to meet just to meet. So if we're going to have all these workshops, I would really like to know ahead of time what we're going to discuss and make that time like meaningful. If it's just going to be another meeting, another board meeting, then where we approve things, let's
No, I mean,
not do that.
as far as I'm concerned, I think the intent would be to continue on with our whole process of updating all of our policies that haven't been updated in years and years.
And I'm okay with that, but again, lots of workshops. I just want to make sure that we're using those
Yep.
effectively, and it can't all just be updating policies. We also have other things we need to chew on. Let's make sure we're doing that and not just having another board meeting.
Yeah, we have, there are, I've looked ahead, there are still plenty of policies will be one of the things we talk about at each of the workshops.
All right.
That's a good point. Or we'd be meeting the night before a 4-day weekend? Yeah. No, that's a good call. Okay, so that's how we'll bring it back next time.
All right.
Thank you. All right, before we go on to the next item, you're right. We're going to move into executive session. What number would this be under? Or have we already called all the numbers that we need to? And we've already called. What I would do, I would go in for All right, we're going to move into executive session under provisions of section 610.021, numbers 3, 6, 13, 14, and business contracts. We will be back here shortly. Thank you.
Yeah, same. Can we take it? Yes.
Look for a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Jared?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm yes. All right. We are now going to move to the last item of new business, the multifunctional printing MFP contract. I'd look for a motion to approve the multifunctioning printing contract as presented.
Second.
All right, we will have discussion over this item. Dr. Welly?
We are pleased to have Director of Technology, Mr. Jameer Wadi, with us tonight. Mr. Wadi, if you would kind of give us the lowdown on your recommendation for this contract.
Sure. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you, right here? You can set it down, but just set it a little. Is that better? There we go. Sure. In short, our goal with this process was to put out an RFQ instead of an RFP to solicit really ideas from qualified vendors. We've had a similar system as far as printing for a number of years, and this being my first time leading this process, I wanted to see what else was out there, what other companies could and would offer. Ultimately, we chose to stick with something somewhat similar to what we've done, but that being said, there were not one that two vendors that truthfully impressed us with what they were offering. Not necessarily the hardware in itself, while that is important. To me, with copiers, really what we're buying is the support and the services packaged around it. There was Sumner One and another company, GFI, that from the beginning I was very impressed with just their procedures and their process. But the reason for the process is to make sure that we look at all the information, that we get a multitude of eyes on it, and that we come to a kind of a consensus. And that's what we did. We outlined in the RFQ everything we wanted to see. We created a bid matrix and a scoring rubric based off of that, and then we scored it accordingly. And then consistently, we came out with Sumner One ahead, followed by GFI, followed by Toshiba, and then RTI.
All right, very good. Any questions from the board?
So we have a process in place to do these, the RFQ process. And that process was followed, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And with your experience with what you've dealt with Sumner One over the years so far, you're happy with the support that they've been able to provide so far?
I am. I believe that the team that I lead and also the staff members that we support would agree.
All right. Any additional questions? Dr. Willie, you have anything to add?
Just feel like the teachers are ready for some new equipment overall.
I do. Copiers are one of those funny things that no matter what you get, half the people will say thank you for the brand new machines, and the other half will say, I don't like this. I wish I had the old machines. But, as things do, especially after 5 years in their fourth and fifth year as they start to break down, I have not seen any pushback that would lead me to believe that the newest version of the machines we currently have, that anyone would be displeased with those.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. With that, we will take a vote. All in favor of approving the multifunctioning printing contract as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thank you. And that will take us to going back into executive session. This time we are going into executive session as authorized by provisions of section 610.021, numbers 3, 6, 13, and 14. All right, thank you. Oh, wait, we have to vote. Sorry, I keep forgetting that part. Oh, yeah. There you go. Julie? Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you.